After the battle over HFY, Elias Ward and General Lyra Kareth returned to a neutral system to regroup. Their small fleet had survived, but many ships were damaged and crews were exhausted. Supplies were low and the machines had retreated only temporarily. Every minute counted. Elias sat in the shuttle's command deck, staring at the report streaming in. "We slowed them," he said, voice calm but tense. "But they are learning. Every encounter makes them stronger. If we do not act quickly, more colonies will be destroyed." Lyra stood beside him, eyes scanning the data. "We have evidence," she said. "Images, patterns, logs of the machine's attacks. If we present this to the Galactic Council, they cannot ignore it." Elias nodded. "Then we go to them. We need reinforcements. Humans alone cannot face this. Neither can the Zayari. Together, we have a chance." The Galactic Council chamber was vast, circular, and filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Elias had been here before, though not for decades. He remembered the politics, the endless debates, and the tendency of leaders to hesitate while disasters grew outside their windows. Lyra led him to the council floor. She introduced him as a human strategist who had fought the Zayari and survived. Elias felt dozens of eyes on him, some suspicious, some curious. When the presentation began, holographic projections filled the chamber. Data from the outer rim, images of the Kralith machines, and patterns of attack were displayed. Elias explained their observations, showing how the machines adapted to every engagement and why traditional fleets would fail. "Every moment of hesitation will cost lives," Elias said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We have engaged them. We have seen their strength, and we have learned that only combined forces, acting with strategy and unpredictability, can stand against them." For a moment, the chamber was silent. Then murmurs spread through the representatives. Some looked shocked. Others looked skeptical. Finally, the council leader spoke. "Captain Ward, General Kareth, this is troubling, but your claims are extraordinary. You present no proof of the machine's long-term plans. Perhaps you exaggerate. Perhaps these are isolated incidents." Elias's jaw tightened. "I am not exaggerating. HFY was almost destroyed. The machine's movements are intelligent. They are organized, adaptive, and relentless. If you do not act now, entire systems will fall before you can respond." Lyra stepped forward. "We bring you direct evidence. These recordings, this data, are fleet's logs. Look at the patterns. See what your own scouts have reported. The threat is real." Instead of action, the chamber erupted in debate. Some delegates accused Elias and Lyra of creating panic. Others suggested that humans and Zayari were using this as an opportunity to seize more power. The word stung, but Elias had expected it. Politics often slowed when lives depended on swift decisions. One human delegate stood. "Captain Ward, General Kareth, we are concerned about your intentions. The records you present are compelling, but they could be altered. We cannot act without full verification." Elias's hands clenched. "Verification costs time we do not have. If the machines attack while you argue, verification will be meaningless." Another voice rose, a Zayari representative. "Perhaps this is a ruse. Humans and Zayari may be attempting to manipulate the council, using fear to push their agenda. We should detain them until the threat can be properly investigated." Elias stared at the speaker. His mind raced. They were planning to arrest him and Lyra, even as the machines gathered strength beyond the outer rim. Lyra's eyes flashed. "They will not arrest us," she said, voice firm. "We have loyal soldiers, and we will not wait for those who refuse to act." Elias nodded. He felt the old fire return, the fire of command, of leading against impossible odds. "Then we fight without them," he said. Together they slipped from the council chamber under the cover of confusion. Loyal Zayari and human officers helped them escape, and the small task force regrouped aboard a nearby station. "Do you understand?" Lyra asked, voice low. "The council will not help. They fear change. They fear the truth. If we wait for them, the galaxy dies." Elias swallowed. He had seen councils and governments fail before, but never so directly. "Then we lead," he said. "We will gather what forces we can, human and Zayari side by side, and we will face the machines head-on." For days, Elias and Lyra moved in secret. They contacted commanders who trusted them, soldiers who had fought alongside them before. Some were human, others Zayari. Together they formed a small but disciplined strike force. Each ship was repaired and armed, each crew trained for the coming battles. During this time, Elias studied the records again. The Kralith machines had a hierarchy, led by a command vessel that controlled smaller constructs. Destroy it and the others might falter. He shared his plan with Lyra. We strike at the core, he said, but we cannot go in alone. We need surprise, speed, and precision. If we succeed, we can turn the tide. If we fail, he did not finish. Failure was unthinkable. Lyra placed a hand on his arm. We will succeed. Your father's faith in you was not misplaced. My father trusted you, and now I trust you as well. Elias felt a surge of determination. Humans in Zayari had survived wars before. Against this new threat, they would need every ounce of skill, courage, and unity. The night before departure, Elias walked the corridors of the station. He paused at the observation deck, staring at the stars. The galaxy seemed calm, almost peaceful, but he knew better. The machines were out there, waiting, learning, planning. Lyra joined him silently. You carry a heavy burden, she said. I do, Elias replied. But someone has to. Someone has to fight when no one else will. My father's father-in-law, or rather your father, was right. Some threats cannot be ignored. Some battles must be led even if the council refuses. She looked at him, her expression softening. Then let us lead together. For the galaxy. They watched the stars in silence. Outside, the void seemed endless, but Elias knew the first strike had already begun. The next morning, the fleet departed. Every ship was patched, armed, and ready. Human and Zayari crews moved with precision, following Elias's and Lyra's orders. The machines had already begun attacking colonies farther out in the outer rim. Every second counted. As they approached the coordinates of the machine fleet, scanners picked up movement. Shapes larger than any previous encounter, energies far stronger. Elias's pulse quickened. They know we're coming, he said. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Then we will give them a fight they cannot predict. Elias studied the fleet. We are outnumbered, but not outsmarted. If we strike at the command ship, the rest will falter. We do this carefully, precisely, and together. The fleet moved in formation, silent, tense, and ready. Every soldier knew the stakes. Every captain followed orders. Elias realized that for the first time, humans and Zayari were acting as one, united against a common threat. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, and in the distance, the Kralith machines waited. The council had abandoned them. Politics had failed. And now, Elias Ward and General Lyra Kareth would lead a small force against an enemy the galaxy barely understood. The first blow had been struck, but the war, the true war, was only beginning. The alarms screamed through the corridors of the alien frigate. Red lights blinked across the walls as crew members rushed to their stations. The young alien woman, Liara, ran with the others, clutching the small communicator against her chest. Her world had warned her about this day. Humans had appeared at the edge of their system. Her people said the humans were merciless hunters, destroyers of worlds, monsters that wore skin like shadows. Liara's heart pounded as she reached the weapons deck. She was no soldier, just an assistant assigned to carry codes and messages. Yet now she stood in the middle of panic, listening to commanders bark orders. Brace for impact. Human missiles inbound, one of the officers shouted. The ship shuddered as explosions rattled the hull. Liara stumbled and fell against a railing. Her ears rang with the roar of destruction. She looked toward the viewport. For the first time, she saw the human warship with her own eyes. It was massive, darker than the void around it, with glowing engines that looked like the fiery eyes of a beast. The alien stories were true, she thought. This was death itself sailing through the stars. Another blast rocked her frigate. Sparks rained from the ceiling. A commander yelled for evacuation, but before the crew could respond, human boarding pods struck the hull with terrifying force. The air filled with the screech of tearing metal. Liara's hands trembled. Her people had always said humans showed no mercy. She thought of the old tales told to frighten children, how humans dragged prisoners into cages, how they drank the fear of their enemies, how they burned entire colonies for sport. The boarding hatch burst open. Figures in heavy armor stormed inside. Their visors glowed faintly, their weapons humming. The alien soldiers tried to fight, but the humans moved with terrifying precision, knocking them down with bursts of energy fire. Liara froze. She wanted to run, but her legs would not obey. One of the armored humans turned toward her. His tall frame filled the corridor. She gasped and dropped to her knees, hands raised, begging in her own tongue. "Mercy," she cried, voice breaking. "Please, do not hurt me." Her chest heaved. She could not stop shaking. She expected the human to strike her down, to silence her as the stories said. Instead, the armored figure hesitated. His weapon lowered slightly. Another human soldier spoke. Words filtered through a strange translator. Civilian non-combatant, the leader nodded. The giant stepped forward and with surprising care lifted Liara to her feet. She flinched at the touch of his armored glove, certain this was the beginning of her end. But the human did not harm her. Instead, he guided her gently toward the boarding pod. Liara's mind screamed with terror. Her body felt like ice. She could not believe what was happening. Why keep her alive? Why not finish her as her people always warned? The pod door sealed shut, and within moments she was carried across the void to the human warship. The air inside was different, heavier, filled with the faint scent of oil and metal. The humans removed their helmets. Liara's breath caught in her throat. They looked nothing like the monsters of legend. Their faces were strange but not twisted, their eyes sharp but not glowing with cruelty. They were flesh and bone, not demons of fire. One of them, a woman with short dark hair, approached her. She knelt down, lowering herself to Liara's level. The translator device on her chest clicked, then her voice reached Liara's ears in broken but clear words. You are safe. We will not hurt you. Safe? The word rattled in Liara's mind. She could not trust it. She had heard too many warnings. Her people had sworn that humans lied, that they lured prisoners with soft words before the torment began. Her eyes darted around the chamber. Every wall was strange and foreign, covered in panels and glowing screens. The humans moved with calm discipline, not with the wild hunger she had been told about. Some carried weapons, but others simply typed on consoles or spoke into devices. Her legs nearly gave way beneath her. She slumped against the wall, clutching her arms around herself. The human woman tilted her head. Then, to Liara's shock, she offered her a small pouch of water. Liara hesitated. Was this a trick? She remembered the stories, poisoned drinks, cruel traps. But her throat burned from smoke and her lips were dry. Slowly, with trembling hands, she took it. She drank. The water was cool and clean. Nothing happened, no pain, no poison. Her wide eyes lifted toward the human woman again. The human only gave a small, reassuring nod. Hours passed. Liara was moved to a quiet chamber. It was not a cell. There were no chains, no bars. Instead, a bed rested against the wall along with a table and chair. Strange food rested on a tray. The door shut behind her and she was alone. She curled into the corner, staring at the food but too afraid to touch it. Her mind spun with confusion. Why treat her this way? Why feed her? Why give her a bed instead of chains? She remembered the moment she begged for mercy. She had expected laughter, cruelty, punishment. Instead, she had been spared. It made no sense. Lying there, Liara trembled in silence. Her people's stories screamed in her memory. They must be waiting for the right time, she thought. The kindness must be a mask, and yet, she could not forget the human eyes that looked at her, not filled with fire, but with something else. Something softer. Sleep pulled at her body, but fear kept her awake. She pressed her hands over her face, whispering to herself in her own tongue. Survive. Just survive. Outside her chamber, footsteps echoed. Voices in the human language murmured, calm and steady. Liara closed her eyes, her heart pounding. She did not know what awaited her, only that her life was no longer in her people's hands. She had entered the world of the humans, those she had always believed were monsters. And for the first time she began to wonder if the stories were wrong. Liara woke to the soft hum of machines. For a moment she thought it was only a dream, that she was still aboard her people's frigate waiting for orders. But when she opened her eyes, the truth returned like a weight pressing on her chest. She was inside a human warship. Her breath came in quick gasps as her eyes scanned the small chamber. The same table, the same bed, the same tray of food untouched from the night before. The walls were smooth and gray with a faint blue light glowing near the door. She sat up slowly, her muscles tense, every sound making her flinch. She expected at any moment for the humans to storm in with cruel laughter, to reveal the real reason they had spared her. That was what her people had always warned, but the door did not slam open. No threats came. Instead, after a long silence, the door slid aside with a soft hiss. A human entered. Liara froze. It was the same woman from before, the one who had knelt in front of her and given her water. Her dark hair was tied back, her uniform neat but simple. She carried no weapon. Instead, she held another tray of food, steam rising from it. The woman set the tray down gently on the table. Then she turned and looked at Liara. Her voice came through the small translator pinned to her chest. "You need food. Please eat." Liara's throat tightened. She pressed herself against the wall. "Why?" she whispered in her own tongue, though the translator did not catch her words. The human tilted her head slightly, almost as if sensing her fear. She pointed to the tray, then mimed the motion of eating. "Food safe." Liara did not move. Her people's stories echoed too loudly in her mind. They said humans tricked their prisoners, fed them poison, made them weak before taking what they wanted. Her hands clenched. "No," she whispered. The human woman sighed softly but did not press. Instead, she reached for the tray herself, took a piece of bread and ate it right in front of her. Then she picked up a spoon, scooped a bite of warm broth, and swallowed. Liara's eyes widened. "No poison, no collapse." The human ate calmly, then set the spoon back down. She gave Liara a small smile and nodded toward the tray again. "Safe," the translator repeated. Liara's stomach growled. She had not eaten since the day before the battle. Hunger gnawed at her, sharp and painful. Slowly, carefully, she crawled toward the table. Her eyes never left the human, expecting a sudden trap. She lifted the spoon with shaking hands and tasted the broth. It was warm, savory, not poisoned. Her lips trembled as she took another bite. Then another. Soon she was eating faster, unable to stop herself. The human did not laugh, did not mock. She only watched quietly, arms folded, as if making sure Liara did not choke. When the bowl was empty, Liara sat back, wiping her mouth with her sleeve. She avoided the human's gaze. Shame burned in her chest. She had begged for mercy, and now she had eaten their food. Was she betraying her people? The human woman spoke again. "You are safe here. We will not hurt you." Safe, again that word. Liara did not believe it. Yet the warmth in her stomach and the softness in the woman's voice made her question everything she had been told. Over the next days, the visits continued. The same human woman brought food and water. She tried to speak, though the translator struggled with some words. Sometimes she would sit across the room, giving Liara space. Sometimes she would gesture toward simple objects, pointing and naming them. Chair, table, light. At first, Liara ignored her, but slowly curiosity overcame fear. She whispered her own words for the objects. The translator caught them, repeating them in human speech. A strange pattern began. Every day, Liara learned a few more words. The human woman smiled whenever she tried, even when she spoke clumsily. One day, after Liara managed to repeat the human word for friend, the woman's smile widened, softer than before. Friend. Liara did not know if she could ever use that word for a human, yet the sound of it echoed in her thoughts long after the woman left. But not everything was calm. On the fourth day, the ship shook suddenly. An alarm blared. Liara jumped to her feet in terror, thinking the humans had finally chosen to destroy her. The door slid open. 2 armored soldiers rushed in. Liara backed against the wall, heart racing. The woman with dark hair entered behind them, speaking quickly. The translator caught fragments. "Calm. Not danger." "Routine drill. Liara did not understand. But she saw the humans' movements, calm, practiced without panic. She realized this was not an attack. They were only training. The soldiers left, leaving her alone again with the woman. Liara pressed her hands to her face, shaking. The woman crouched down, her voice soft. Fear. Not needed. Safe. Liara lowered her hands slowly. Her eyes met the humans. For the first time, she saw no cruelty there, only patience. Later that night, Liara could not sleep. She sat on the bed, staring at the wall. She thought of her people's warnings. They had sworn that humans were demons, but the woman had shown kindness again and again. Could all those stories be lies? Her chest ached with confusion. If the humans were not monsters, then what were they? She remembered the moment she had begged for mercy. She remembered how her voice had broken, how she had expected death. Instead, they had spared her. Instead, they had fed her. She hugged her knees tightly, whispering into the silence. Why? The translator on the wall did not answer. The humans did not answer. Only the hum of the ship surrounded her, but deep inside a seed of doubt grew. Doubt about the stories she had always believed. Doubt about the fear she carried. Perhaps, just perhaps, the humans were not what she thought. The next morning, When the human woman arrived with food, Liara did not retreat to the corner. She stayed by the table. Her hand still trembled, but she whispered the human word she had practiced the night before. "Thank you." The woman's eyes softened. She gave a small nod and spoke back gently. "You're welcome." Liara sat in silence, her heart pounding. It was only a small exchange of words, but to her it felt like the beginning of something greater. She was still afraid. She still did not trust them fully. Yet part of her began to wonder if her world had been wrong all along, and that thought frightened her even more than the humans themselves. Liara's days aboard the human warship passed slowly, each one a mixture of fear and curiosity. She had begun to eat without hesitation, and her body no longer trembled with constant hunger, yet her mind remained on edge, unsure of what the humans might do next. Even with food and safety, the stories she had grown up with refused to leave her. Her people had painted humans as heartless and cruel. Every act of kindness felt suspicious, as if it were a trap. She watched the humans carefully, noticing their routines, their conversations, their small smiles. Nothing matched the terrifying myths she had been taught. One morning, the human woman, whose name she had learned was Mara, entered the chamber with a small device in her hands. It looked like a flat box with screens that flickered faintly. "You can move," Mara said, the translator converting her words into Liara's language. "Only certain areas. You can see, learn." Liara froze. "Move, see?" She glanced around nervously, afraid that leaving the room might be a trap. "Why?" she asked cautiously. Mara smiled softly, placing the device on the table. "Trust, try, safe." Liara hesitated, her instincts screaming to stay hidden. But curiosity gnawed at her. She looked at the screen and saw a map of the ship, sections highlighted in soft green. "You want me to walk there?" she asked, voice trembling. "Yes. Watch. Learn. Safe," Mara replied. Slowly, Liara nodded. She had no choice but to follow. Her legs were stiff, but she forced herself to stand. Mara walked beside her, guiding her with gentle gestures. Every step felt strange. The ship was alive with noises she had never heard before. Hum of engines, clicks of machinery, distant voices. As they moved, Liara's fear clashed with fascination. The humans were calm, organized, even patient with her. Every human she saw greeted her politely or nodded as if she belonged. No one pointed weapons at her or shouted commands. By the time they reached a training area, Liara's heart was pounding. The room was large, with walls covered in holographic displays and targets of various shapes. Humans were running drills, moving with precision and coordination. Mara gestured toward a panel, then to Liara. The translator clicked. "Try, only safe." "Watch first," Liara's stomach tightened. "Try what?" She looked at the humans moving with their weapons, practicing maneuvers. Her eyes widened. Mara knelt and pointed to a practice weapon lying on a rack. "Safe, watch." Liara stepped back instinctively. She had never touched a human weapon before. In her culture, weapons were tools of destruction, often used to punish or kill, and the humans were famous for being lethal. "Safe," Mara repeated, smiling encouragingly. With a shaking hand, Liara picked up the weapon. It was heavier than she expected, but perfectly balanced. Mara guided her hand to press a button, and a harmless light beam shot toward a target. Liara flinched, expecting an explosion. Nothing. Only the target lit up. She tried again. The beam followed her hand, striking the target with perfect accuracy. A small thrill ran through her chest. She looked at Mara, whose eyes sparkled with encouragement. "It works," Liara whispered. Mara nodded. "You learn, humans. Not all violence, control, discipline." Liara hesitated. Could that be true? Could humans who were so strong in battle also be disciplined enough not to hurt an innocent? She wanted to ask, but the words caught in her throat. Days passed in similar routines. Liara observed, learned, and slowly participated. She practiced simple drills, always under Mara's careful watch. Each day, the humans treated her not as a prisoner, but as a student. Still, her fear did not fully vanish. One morning, alarms sounded across the ship. Liara's heart leapt. She grabbed Mara's sleeve instinctively. "Attack?" she whispered. Mara shook her head. "Drill. Calm. Safe." Liara exhaled shakily, though the tension remained. Her mind raced. How could humans show such kindness and yet still fight with such power? Were they hiding something? Or were they truly as different as they seemed? Then the test came. Liara was allowed to move to the observation deck where she could see the stars stretch endlessly around the ship. The view was breathtaking, even with fear tugging at her chest. Suddenly, the sensors blared. On the screen before her, small dots appeared, fast-moving, heading straight toward the human ship. Mara grabbed her hand. Not danger, maybe. Problem. Watch. Liara's stomach dropped. Her people were attacking. She had only just begun to trust the humans. Now she realized she might be forced to choose between them and her own kind. The dots approached rapidly. A fleet of alien fighters, her own people, were closing in. They fired beams and alarms screamed across the human ship. Liara's mind raced. Her people had been her family, her culture, her entire life. But she had seen the humans show her mercy, feed her, and even let her move freely. Could she betray them now? Mara gestured frantically. Hide, watch, help if can. Liara hesitated. Her hands shook, but she realized what she could do. She knew the layout of her people's attack patterns from the ship she had been on. If she could relay a warning, the humans might avoid damage. Her voice caught in her throat as she spoke, barely audible. They coming left side at weak point. The translator repeated her words clearly to Mara. The human captain adjusted their defenses immediately, redirecting shields and energy barriers. The alien attack hit, but the ship shook less than expected. Human sailors moved with skill and precision, avoiding the worst of the damage. Liara's heart raced. She had warned them. She had helped. And the humans had not harmed her. They had protected her even while defending themselves. After the attack, Mara led Liara to a quiet chamber. Liara collapsed on a chair, trembling with relief and fear. You humans, Liara whispered. You not monsters. Mara knelt beside her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. Not all. Some, yes, but humans value life, protect, not destroy without reason, Liara swallowed. Could it be true? Could humans, so strong and feared, be capable of such mercy? The thought was overwhelming. For hours they sat in silence. Liara's mind replayed the attack, her warning, the humans' careful defense. She realized something she had never allowed herself to believe. Humans were not all monsters. In fact, they could be brave, disciplined, and kind even in the face of danger. Her hands shook as she finally said, I think I trust a little. Mara smiled, a warmth Liara had never seen in any soldier of her own people. Good step. Trust. Learn. That night, as Liara lay on the bed, she stared at the ceiling. Her people had filled her mind with fear and hatred of humans. But now, after witnessing kindness, courage, and discipline, she began to question everything. Perhaps the humans were not what she had feared. Perhaps they were something else entirely. Something capable of surprising even the most skeptical of hearts. And for the first time since her capture, Liara felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. Liara had spent several weeks aboard the human warship. Each day brought new lessons, new glimpses of human life beyond the battlefield. She had learned simple routines, basic words, and even how humans interacted with one another. Slowly, the fear in her heart had been replaced by a cautious curiosity. But Liara knew she had not yet earned full trust. She was still a stranger aboard the ship, a being from a world that her people had trained her to fear, and she knew that the moment would come when humans would expect her to choose a side, her people or them. That moment came sooner than she expected. The alarm blared suddenly, echoing through the ship. Liara's body tensed, but she did not run this time. Instead, she followed Mara and other humans to the observation deck. On the main screen, small dots appeared, fast-moving, similar to before, but this time there were far more of them. Her stomach tightened. Her people were attacking again, but their fleet was larger, better organized, and much closer. The humans worked quickly, directing energy shields and preparing defense protocols. Liara watched as humans moved with fluid precision, communicating silently through hand signals and short phrases translated for her by the device. The difference between this moment and the previous attack was clear. The humans were ready. They had anticipated such an assault. Liara's mind raced. She could see weak points in the approaching fleet, gaps in the formation, areas of poor coordination. If she acted quickly, she could warn the humans and prevent heavy losses, but doing so meant revealing herself. It meant breaking the invisible line that separated prisoner from ally. Her people had taught her that helping humans was betrayal, And yet for the first time her heart hesitated to follow that teaching. Mara noticed her hesitation. She reached out, placing a gentle hand on Liara's arm. "You, help, you." "Safe," she said, nodding toward the screen. Liara swallowed hard. She took a deep breath, then spoke the warning. "Left flank, weak, gap in shields. They will try there first." The translator repeated her words to the human captain, who adjusted the ship's shields and repositioned defensive drones. The attack came with full force. Energy beams tore across the void, striking the ship's hull. Sparks flew in distant sections, alarms screamed, and the human crew moved with swift determination. Yet because of Liara's warning, the brunt of the attack was deflected. Fewer human lives were at risk. Liara watched in awe as the humans defended themselves. Despite being outnumbered, they moved with confidence, coordination, and careful judgment. Every action was deliberate, every command precise. For the first time, Liara began to see humans not as monsters, but as beings capable of both courage and compassion. They fought to defend their lives, yes, but also to protect one another. Every human on that bridge was valuable, and they treated each other with respect and care. When the attack ended, the ship shook from the last of the energy strikes, but it had survived. The crew worked quickly to repair damage, and Mara guided Liara to a quiet chamber to calm her. "You humans. Amazing," Liara whispered, her voice trembling with relief and awe. Mara smiled softly. "You see, humans, strong, not all bad." Liara thought of her people's stories, the legends of humans as monsters who destroyed without reason. She felt shame for believing them. The humans had shown her kindness, patience, and even now bravery, and yet her own heart still felt divided. Her people had trained her to be loyal, to fear humans. Could she truly trust them now? Mara seemed to sense her inner conflict. She sat beside Liara, her expression gentle. "You choose, but careful. Choices change life." Liara closed her eyes, letting the words sink in. Change. Life. She understood. She could no longer remain passive. She had to act if she wanted to survive, and to help the humans who had already saved her life. The next day, Mara introduced Liara to more of the crew. Humans of all ages and backgrounds moved through the ship, performing tasks with precision and care. Liara observed them closely, noting their cooperation, their laughter, even the small disagreements that ended with compromise rather than violence. She learned from them, not only about human technology, but about their values. Humans were not just warriors. They were thinkers, builders, and protectors. They valued life, even life that did not belong to them. During a maintenance check, Liara worked alongside a human technician named Joran. He showed her how to adjust small energy panels and repair circuits. At first, Liara was clumsy, afraid of making a mistake, but Joran remained patient, guiding her hand without scolding. "You, learning," he said, smiling. "Humans teach. Patient, you, not alone." Liara felt warmth spread through her chest. She had not felt this way in years, this sense of acceptance and encouragement. She realized humans did not measure strength by power alone. They valued perseverance, curiosity, and courage. That evening, she sat in her chamber reflecting on the day. She realized that she had grown to trust humans a little more. The fear that had haunted her since capture had softened, replaced by awe and respect. She was beginning to understand that humans were capable of greatness beyond what her people had told her. The turning point came unexpectedly. A distress signal arrived from a nearby outpost. It was under attack by a small fleet of her people's ships. The humans prepared to respond immediately. Mara approached Liara. "You, help, you know them?" Liara's heart ached. She recognized the markings on the attacking ships, the same symbols she had grown up seeing. Helping humans meant opposing her people, breaking the loyalty she had been taught to uphold. But then she looked at Mara, at the humans ready to risk their lives to protect others, and she realized something important. Humans did not fight for conquest or fear. They fought to protect life even when it was not theirs to defend. Her hands shook, but she nodded. "Yes, I can help." Mara's eyes softened. "Good, trust. Step forward. You part, now." Together they analyzed the attack patterns. Liara guided the humans through her knowledge of her people's fleet, predicting maneuvers and weak points. With her help, The human warship intercepted the attackers before they could cause serious damage. Liara watched in amazement as humans combined strategy, skill, and courage to protect both themselves and the outpost. For the first time, Liara felt fully part of something greater than herself. She was no longer a prisoner or a scared observer. She was an ally, a contributor, and for the first time, a believer in the truth about humans. After the battle, she stood on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. Mara joined her, handing her a small cup of warm liquid. Liara drank it slowly, savoring the moment of calm after chaos. "You, humans, not monsters," Liara said softly. Mara nodded. "See, now humans protect, care, brave, even mercy." Liara's eyes shimmered with tears. She realized that everything she had been told about humans was wrong. Her people had feared them for generations, spreading lies to maintain control. Yet here she stood, safe and alive, seeing firsthand the true nature of the humans she had once dreaded. That night, as she lay in her bed, Liara reflected on the days since her capture. Each moment of kindness, patience, and bravery had built a new understanding within her. The humans were not monsters. They were strong, disciplined, and capable of great compassion. Her first moments of terror, begging for mercy, seemed distant now. Fear still lingered, but it was no longer paralyzing. In its place was determination. She would continue to learn, continue to trust, and perhaps, when the time came, continue to stand with the humans. Not because she owed them, but because she believed in them, and for the first time, Liara allowed herself to hope that perhaps, one day, her people might also see the truth.